They told you it couldn't be done. They told you a sitting dictator with the backing of China, Russia, and Iran was untouchable. They told you the Western Hemisphere was lost. And then without warning, without apology, President Trump proved every single one of them wrong. Nicolás Maduro is no longer running Venezuela. He's sitting in a cell. And the people who said this day would never come are now scrambling to explain why they never wanted it to happen in the first place. So understand what's at stake here. Venezuela had become a narco state, a criminal enterprise dressed up as a government. Maduro was not just a dictator, he was indicted by the United States for drug trafficking. He opened his country to Hezbollah, to Iranian operatives, to Chinese mining interests, to Russian military advisors. Drugs, weapons, and foreign agents flowed north while American families buried their children from fentanyl overdoses. The Biden administration put a $25 million bounty on Maduro and then did absolutely nothing. For years, our adversaries watched and they laughed. They carved up the hemisphere while Washington issued press releases. Well, that era is finally over. President Trump just showed the world that American red lines mean something again. Every cartel boss, every foreign operative, every dictator with American blood on their hands just got the message. As we step into 2026, uncertainty didn't end with the calendar turning over. It's the environment that we're living in now. Hoping things will settle down is not a strategy, it's a risk. And for over a decade, Noble Gold Investments has helped Americans protect what they have worked for by moving wealth into real tangible assets like gold and silver. Now, nobody knows what 2026 will bring, but history teaches us when confidence in systems fades, real health holds. Real wealth through physical is time-tested and it's yours. And the most valuable thing you can secure is peace of mind. And that's what Noble Gold delivers. Visit nextnewsgold.com for your free wealth protection kit because 2026 belongs to those who prepare. You can find the number on the screen, 877-646-5347, and operators are standing by. But here's where it gets interesting. You see, the operation was 100% surgical.
Target when the whole world is watching.
It was surgical. Special forces moved into Caracas with speed and precision. Maduro was extracted and delivered to American custody before the regime even knew what happened. Secretary Rubio confirmed there are no U.S. troops on the ground in Venezuela. This was not an invasion. This was law enforcement, and the administration made it clear. All operations and all options remain on the table until Venezuela expels Iranian influence, shuts down Hezbollah operations, and ends the drug pipeline. Meanwhile, Venezuelans across the hemisphere celebrated openly. In Panama, crowds cheered and waved flags. Refugees wept. For the first time in years, they have hope. What we're seeing here is a representation of the actual raid that took place.
We have the declassified timeline of how U.S. forces breached the heart of Caracas and extracted Nicolás Maduro. Let's start with step one, the setup. This didn't happen overnight. For months, the U.S. had been tightening a naval quarantine around Venezuela. The U.S. Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and the U.S. Iwo Jima Amphibious Ready Group were parked off the coast. The pretext was clear. The U.S. designated the Venezuelan government a narco-terrorist state, specifically targeting the drugs lords, but while the Navy squeezed the coast, intelligence assets were tracking one man. They waited for a specific window, a moment where Maduro was stationary and vulnerable. Step two, the strike. It began at exactly 2 a.m. Venezuelan Standard Time. High above, several F-35 stealth fighters punch a hole through the enemy lines, destabilizing their anti-air defenses. Like these Russian S-300 missiles located all over the strategic high-value target. With the skies cleared, the path opens for Delta Force helicopters to fly straight towards the mission. Here comes the deception as the helicopters flew. The jets started firing with more strikes as it hit Fort Tiuna, the main military base and command center, and La Carlota Air Base, destabilizing Venezuelan air support. Reports from the ground describe widespread explosions and a sudden communications blackout. The chaos wasn't the goal, it was the cover. But how did the raid happen? We have to look at step 3. Under the cover of darkness and chaos, the Tier 1 operators went to work. But what is the exact unit tasked with the mission? It is the Delta Force, one of the most elite secretive special forces units in the U.S. military. Witnesses in Caracas reported low-flying aircraft skimming the rooftops, flying well below radar coverage. The team breached a secure compound believed to be a safe house within the massive Fort Tiuna complex. Resistance from the Venezuelan Presidential Guard was swift but ultimately futile. as the helicopters lay cover fire. The operators moved with surgical speed, landing on multiple points. But how exactly the capture and extraction happened? For this, let's look at step 4. Specialized helicopters hovered over the objective to insert the assault team. While dozens of attack helicopters laid down suppression fire, the Delta Special Forces descended and started the search for the high-value targets. How did they find him? Simple. The CIA had planted spy inside Nicolás Maduro close circle. While back in the US, Delta Force built an exact replica of his safe house, rehearsing the raid until they could do it blindfolded. While operators breached the room so fast, his security could not even react to the situation as the sound of flash grenades disoriented the security guard. Using Blowtorch, they caught him before he could even lock all the doors. Maduro's shock and awe froze him as Delta Force breached the compound. Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were physically secured. This wasn't a negotiation. They were detained and immediately moved to the extraction point. These aircraft are capable of performing urban extractions from buildings and refueling in midair. Within minutes, they were airborne, leaving Venezuelan airspace and heading to a secure floating staging base in the Caribbean. How do you capture a high-value target when the whole world is watching?
You know, it feels like a 1980s action movie. That's what it feels like. Absolutely amazing. Surgical precision. Not your average warlike action. President Trump says, I'm pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. The oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I've asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Here we have this just in. Here is Pam Bondi discussing the arrest of Maduro on Fox Business.
Americans. With regards to the cocaine, President Trump knows, to make our economy great, we have to be safe in our country. And these narco-terrorists, which is what they are, they were importing hundreds of tons of cocaine into our country, killing our kids, killing countless thousands of Americans every single year. And Larry, don't forget, the Maduro emptied his prisons, he emptied insane asylums, and let those people come into our country during the last administration, and President Trump stopped it. Now he is sitting in the Southern District of New York, where he and his wife, Celia Maduro, will be held accountable for their crimes. This isn't just a drug dealer. He's a monster. He's a narco-terrorist, and she's also charged with 3 of the counts. Larry, they supplied these drug dealers with machine guns, with grenades, with everything to further their cocaine conspiracy and what they were doing around our country. They put hits on people, murders, kidnappings, assaults, anything on anyone who stood in their way. And no longer, President Trump is going to keep America safe, and that means locking up those 2 criminals. With regards to the cocaine,
America in action. Now, Rand Paul went on with Maria Bartiromo. He warned that regime change without Congress is presidential overreach. He says he has no love for Maduro, but the Constitution is clear. Congress decides when America goes to war. But the key distinction here, Senator Paul, is that this was not an act of war. This was a law enforcement operation to extract a criminal who had been already indicted. That's the key difference here.
Underplay. But first is this. Toppled Venezuelan dictator Nicolás Maduro and his wife pled not guilty to narco-terrorism charges in a New York City courtroom yesterday. The 63-year-old dictator calling himself, quote, a prisoner of war and, quote, a decent man, telling the judge he and his wife were kidnapped from their home in Caracas. The Trump administration briefing lawmakers about Operation Absolute Resolve, leaving them largely split along party lines. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul reacted to the operation. Watch.
Apparently this attack's been under planning for 3 or 4 months, and so there's plenty of time to ask Congress's permission. I think it's disdainful, but I don't think he's the first president to do it. You can't say, oh, well, we're just arresting a criminal. They bombed half of Caracas and then removed him from that. And the argument that, oh, we had to have the shoulders to defend the people arresting him, well, we have a foreign leader in another country that was accused of killing an American journalist. Would that mean that people could swoop in on Saudi Arabia, bomb Riyadh, snatch MBS, and leave? Now there's rumblings of going into Colombia, rumblings of going into Cuba. This is something that is a presidential excess, and it is right and proper for Congress to debate it.
Well, I guess they can. That's what the floor is for. It is for debate. But President Trump has his own remarks. Here he is talking about Maduro.
Good job. At some point they should say, you did a great job. Thank you. Congratulations. Wouldn't it be good? I would say that if they did a good job. Their philosophies are so different. But if they did a good job, I'd be happy for the country. They've been after this guy for years and years and years. And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy, and he's killed millions of people. He's tortured. They have a torture chamber in the middle of Caracas that they're closing up. But he's tortured people, and now what they do, the radical left, they actually have people, and it's hard to get them. They're all paid people. Most of these people are paid. They're paid when they have brand new, beautiful printed signs by like the highest quality printer, and you have a woman, free Maduro, and the sign is before we even did the attack. Free Maduro. Why do you want him freed? I don't know, but he should be free. Oh, she reads the sign. What does that say? It says free. Well, that's what I believe. At some point they should say, you did it.
The paid protesters, they certainly popped up quickly, didn't they? Here's more on that from the president.
By the way, Venezuela, everyone, they're marching in the streets. They love it, except in New York. Where they find these people? These people, they're not these people are a mess. I know it's not nice to say that. These people are a mess. Where do they find these people? They're the worst looking people I've ever seen. They got hats that are all frayed and they look like they're all paid. Mm-hmm. They don't even know what they're talking. When the reporters don't interview them because they know that it's, the press is so anti. It's hard to believe the press could be so anti because it's all common sense. It's not, we're conservative, whatever. Doesn't matter. We're all common sense people. It's not even conservative. It's common sense. But the press has no credibility whatsoever. Think of it. I got 97% bad stories on one network, 93% on the other, and I won in a landslide. You know what that means? The press has no credibility. By the way, Venezuela...
Of course they don't have any credibility. It's because we're replacing them. Here's a protester who's against the war in Venezuela, confronted with video of Venezuela celebrating.
And you should check out that communist flag over there.
What brings you out here today?
I'm organized with the Revolutionary Communists of America. We're out here to say hands off Venezuela, and we unequivocally stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialist aggression.
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets?
What?
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets today?
I saw images of Venezuelans being bombed after the U.S., bombed Caracas. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, I think you should definitely
show me the bombings that you're talking about. I didn't see any.
I don't know. I just saw it on Reddit. It was on the front page of the
Reddit.
So
okay.
I don't know.
But what do you think about the people celebrating? The hundreds of thousands of people that are in the streets celebrating.
I have yet to see it. Can you show me that?
Yeah.
Sure. U.S. imperialism.
People celebrating on the streets here. What do you think about that?
At the end of the day, I stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialism. The U.S. has no right to bomb the people of Venezuela. The U.S. has no right to kidnap another leader of another.
Celebrating? Why are they celebrating?
I don't know. Do you have a correspondent there who can ask? I'm
trying to
here
get
demonstrating
out there with
against.
the airspace.
I'm here demonstrating against U.S. imperialism and the U.S.
Is
intervention.
this AI though? These images of everybody
I don't know.
celebrating?
You're the one showing me the video, so let me know. You're showing me the source. I don't know.
I don't think it's AI because it's
Okay.
being published by multiple news organizations. So just what are your thoughts on it?
I'm here protesting U.S. intervention,
understand that. I
U.S.
get that.
imperialism, and U.S. capitalism. You should check out that.
Yeah, another perfect example there. President Trump referring to them specifically. Here's John Fetterman on Maduro.
Called the So Senator Chris Murphy, your Democratic colleague, called the operation wildly illegal. America doesn't want this war. Nobody asked for this. And I think the most important conversation to have is Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. Do you want to take this on?
I respect my friend in Connecticut, but we have different views on this and perhaps other views as well. I just said this on my social media that, remind everybody that America is a force of good, order, and democracy, and we are promoting these kinds of values. We are the good guys. Let's pretend that now we are acting in a way. Now, remember, we all Democrats years ago wanted to eliminate him, and why have a bounty of $25 million if we didn't want him gone? Why would you do these things if you weren't willing to actually do something other than harsh language?
So, Senator
Fetterman to the rescue again, setting the record straight. Let's take a look here. Here's more President Trump referring to the actions of the raid. This was 72 hours ago. What a whirlwind, though. Waking up to that news, that was freaking nuts.
Heading into New York.
Can you tell us where Maduro and his wife are right this second?
Well, they'll be heading to New York. They were indicted in New York, and also.
So are they taken to a ship first, and then?
Yes, the Iwo Jima. They're on a ship.
Okay.
But they'll be heading into New York. The helicopters took them out, and they went by helicopter in a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it. But they've killed a lot of people. Remember that they killed a lot of people, and
a lot of Americans.
Even people in their own country. They killed a lot of people to maintain power. He's a very vicious person.
Can you tell us where?
Very vicious person. Now sitting in a cell in New York with paid protesters out there supporting dictatorship. This is the moment that President Trump, you've probably seen this, announced the raid had taken place, and notably tired. Everyone I saw in the comments for these types of videos, everybody's like, yeah, Trump just looks tired. Well, think about what he just had done, right?
Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas.
Now, with one correction here, I'd say it's a force not seen since the film Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
To bring outlaw dictator Nicolás Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. Late last night.
Yes. Certainly feels like an 80s action movie. Venezuelan orders a nationwide mobilization, has declared a state of emergency. This is 24 hours ago. Some of the protest signs that popped up immediately protesting the war on Venezuela. Stop the bombings. Yeah, they're done. The bombings are over, guys. It was a quick in and out action. U.S. Ambassador Waltz justifying the actions. This is 24 hours ago.
As Secretary, Nicolás Maduro is responsible for attacks.
This is at the United Nations.
On the people of the United States, for destabilizing the Western Hemisphere and illegitimately repressing the people of Venezuela. As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco-trafficker who is now going to stand trial in the United States in accordance with the rule of law for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years.
15 years this has been going on. 15 years, finally coming to an end. Venezuelan women in California, so happy about the news. We've been in jail for so many years. He controlled everything. We cry because now somebody did something. This president is the first president that did something. This is hope, they're saying. Laura Logan making note as well. These people did not have to be paid. Yeah, these are not the paid protesters. These are the people waving Venezuelan flags and celebrating the capture of Maduro. They didn't need some AstroTurf money from George Soros to show up. They just needed their heart and their soul to be freed. And that's what President Trump did. President Trump rightly spotlighting the heartbreaking murder of Jocelyn Nungary by illegal aliens tied to Tren Aragua. Removing Maduro from power will save countless lives and serve as a warning to think twice when targeting Americans. These are the consequences of narco states.
Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungary, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States. Americans like 12.
The consequences are real, and families are have been feeling the pain for far too long. Let's jump to Marco Rubio 48 hours ago.
We retain all the options we had before this raid and this capture and this arrest was made. We continue. The quarantine is in place right now. If you are a sanctioned boat and you are headed towards Venezuela, you will be seized either on the way in or on the way out with a court order that we get from judges in the United States. We will continue to enforce our sanctions. And that is going to continue to happen until such time as changes are made. I cannot overstate how crippling this is for their future. On the other hand, there's an alternative to that. And here's the alternative. And that is an oil industry that actually benefits the people, that actually goes to the benefit, not of people, of the people, not just 2 or 3 or 5 people who are stealing it, and certainly not to Iran or any of the other sanctioned entities that we're going after. We retain.
Yeah, this is a big deal. Rapid response calling Chris Murphy a buffoon. Chris Murphy says, to the invasion of Venezuela has nothing to do with American security. Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. The president's rapid response account, tell that to the families of the innocent Americans brutally murdered by gang members and the regime imported here, or the drugs they trafficked here. You are sick.
Foreign policy is Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. There is no terrorist group like Al-Qaeda operating there that has plans.
Okay, see, he's wrong on his face because the group has been designated a terrorist organization. So he's just flat out lying to the American people right here on CNN, of course.
to attack the United States to the extent that you care about the drug trade. Yes, they produce drugs, but those drugs go to Europe. Fentanyl is...
Oh, really? They just go to Europe. Okay, so none of it ends up here? Sure.
The drug that's killing Americans, that's not coming from Venezuela. Venezuela produces cocaine. 90% of it is not coming to the United States. This seems to be mostly about oil and natural resources. Donald Trump...
Well, that too. I mean, there were crimes there when Maduro seized all of the U.S. infrastructure that was created. Okay, so there's a twofold element here. You got the drug problem, and then you've got the seizure of the U.S. oil interests.
Trump's entire foreign policy is corrupt. Russia, the Middle East, and now Venezuela is all about making money for his friends. And Wall Street, the oil industry, they can make a lot of money off of Venezuela if they run it. You saw within hours of the invasion the announcement of a group of Wall Street investors.
Okay, enough of you. Let's go back to Marco Rubio on Meet the Press 48 hours ago. Actually, no. Let's go to him 24 hours ago, firing back at UN criticism.
Now, Venezuela's not. You're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source, and the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolás Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Fugitive no more. Here's Rubio again about there is no war.
With regards to...
Is the United States now at war with Venezuela?
There's not a war. I mean, we are at war against drug trafficking organizations. It's not a war against Venezuela. We are enforcing American laws with regards to oil sanctions. We have sanctioned entities. We go to court. We get a warrant. We seize those boats with oil, and that will continue. We would continue to reserve the right to take strikes against drug boats that are bringing drugs towards the United States that are being operated by transnational criminal organizations, including the Cartel de los Sols. Of course, the leader of that cartel, is now in U.S. custody and facing U.S. justice in the Southern District of New York, and that's Nicolás Maduro. So we made a big progress in that regard.
Is the United...
So here we have the acting Venezuelan leader, Delcy Rodriguez, has now been warned by President Trump.
5 a.m., the president...
Do what's right. Do what's right, or face a situation worse than Maduro. See, that's not diplomacy, that's a promise. The narco-state model is finished, and the message has been sent to every regime watching. America is back, the rules are enforced, and hiding behind a title no longer protects you from American justice. So this is why it matters. You see, for decades, Washington talked tough and did nothing. Dictators laughed, cartels expanded, foreign adversaries embedded themselves 90 miles from our shore and poisoned our streets. The establishment told us this was just how the way the world worked. Then we had to manage threats, not eliminate them. President Trump rejected that lie. In one operation, he removed a dictator, decapitated a cartel state, and sent a message heard from Caracas to Beijing. The Western Hemisphere belongs to free people, not narco-terrorists. And of course, the globalists are furious, the NGOs are protesting, the legacy media is melting down, and the Venezuelan people are dancing in the streets for the first time in a generation. See, that's the difference between talk and action. That is the Trump doctrine. That is the MAGA world order in action. So here's my question for the chat. Should the U.S. pursue similar operations against other narco regimes? Colombia, Cuba? We know they're on the table. Drop a yes or no in the comments, and don't forget to visit our merch shop. It's linked in the description.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now. You know out.